Okay. Okay. All righty. I am so sorry. I have been gone since Tuesday. I just got back home really late last night. I went to a mission conference. They call it a retreat because it's at a church camp there. And before the students get out of school and start camp all summer, they allow this group, World Evangelism is the name of the group, to use it for this mission retreat thing. And so there was people, as I always do, I post pictures, but I haven't had time yet. People from all over the world that are actually, living in those places. Uh, there was only maybe 2 or 3 people that were native to those countries. Everybody else is a U.S. missionary that goes over. But the amount of years of experience and knowledge is just incredible. Um, it'd be like, I don't know, you go into a postal convention or something. They would understand what you did and dogs biting you and, sorting the mail and whatever that we just don't quite get. So it's just a wonderful thing. So let me go through some of these. Some of these slides you've already seen. Has anybody not seen this? How many people in here have never seen me before? Or, okay, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. Well, Guyana is at the top of South America. It's not in Africa, as people think. It was a former British, and so they speak English, which is really, really good because I don't speak anything else. A lot of the folks I was with this weekend have immersed themselves in whatever country they live in. They'll take their families with them and live there for 10 or 20 or 30. One of them was at least 38 years. Others, the more for mission workers are, they live in the States and they raise funds, they raise awareness for their work, and then they go as often as they can. And that's kind of what I do. I've been once this year, just got back last month. I'm going in July and August, Lord willing, and then hopefully October and December if the funds work. I just got back from a medical mission trip. We were from all over the United States, and we met in Miami, and then we fly over to Guyana to give you an idea of where it is on the continent of South America. Get the size of Kentucky and Tennessee put together, it's just differently. But I don't remember what slides that I have in here, but everybody lives near the top of Guyana, 90% of the people. The lifespan is shorter, so the medical mission trip we were on is very needed because they don't have the infrastructure to help the folks like we do here. Now, our insurance and all the health care costs a lot of money, but people there live on very little. Now, this is the interior I'm talking about, not the capital of Georgetown. They live kind of like we do up there, but in the interior, I usually say it's like America 100 years ago. Everybody fends for themselves. They grow their own food and fish and farm and things like that. At the top is Georgetown, the capital. It's modern. They don't have building codes there like we do. You'll see a fancy house and then a shack and then a half-built house and then a really small house and then another large like a mansion looking thing. But in the interior on the bottom picture, that's typical. You see maybe mountains in the distance. It's covered with the rainforest, and then the savannas are the grassland, and they have traditional mud brick houses and roofs made from palm leaves. You fly out of Georgetown on the top there, and that's what it looks like. When you get to a village, you can see what it looks like there on the bottom. It's just a mishmash of little huts. There's no really streets or stop signs or asphalt or electricity or refrigeration or computers or internet and so on and so forth. Guyana means the land of many waters, and there is I forgot the term, but it's a something or other shelf. And so part of the land is higher than the rest of the land, and there's all these beautiful waterfalls. Just amazing. There are 9 tribes that are indigenous to Guyana. Of course, these are man-made borders now, so some of them are in Brazil or some are in Venezuela, things like that. But once a year for a month in September, they get to celebrate their culture. But they only make up about 8 or 10% of the population, okay? So they're kind of second-class citizens in a lot of ways. They don't get treated all that well by the government. Whoop. There we go. Some of the animals that you see, I've shown these pictures before. Kids usually like to see them, or fishermen like to see the really big fish there, biggest saltwater fish in the world. I mean, freshwater fish, excuse me. Okay. Did I miss one? Yeah, okay. I didn't remember I had that slide in there. Okay. We on this last trip, the fellow that owned the lot, it was a really nice trip, by the way. We had a bed every night, and we had some electricity from solar power. And the British fellow that owned it had moved there 30 or 40 years ago and had married one of the local ladies. Well, their nephew, 1 week before we got to stay at his lodge during the medical mission trip, was out fishing with a net in the river. And caiman breathe air, but they'll go down to the bottom and feed. Well, he didn't know it was down there, and he was doing his net, and he kicked it. Well, it came up, and wasn't happy about that, and was after him, and he was trying to fight it off, and it bit his arm off from the elbow down. Normally, they're not like that. People walk to church all the time across creeks and rivers that have caiman in it, and they're scary looking. They're not quite as big as our crocodiles. In America, they'd be as long as this pew. Down there, they're, maybe half as long as the pew. But they can be dangerous still. Lots of different other type animals that we don't have here. That's kind of interesting. Why does it not? I have to point it right at that thing, I guess. Oh, okay. We should always look up to heaven, so that's good. It's back there. Okay. Okay. Some more animals. The harpy eagle there on the bottom right is huge. It's like this big. It's the biggest eagle in the world. Of course, you can see the size of the turtle there compared to that lady. And the upper right, people in Brazil, I was talking to a couple at the retreat, and they live down there, and they actually eat those. People eat capybara. Throw in some woodpeckers. We have those here, but I was just thinking, they would make excellent door knockers. If we went on a door knocking campaign, you wouldn't have to knock on the doors. You just have a trained woodpecker, and he could do it for you. In Guyana, a lot of them don't have doors. This is one of the reasons why my wife will probably never go to Guyana. She doesn't like that's a huge spider. It's like the size of your hand. I haven't seen one that large there. I'm sorry. These are types of monkeys that you see in Guyana. The fat guy in the orange shirt is not a monkey. But we stayed at the lodge, and if you follow me on Facebook, you saw where Piccolo, the monkey, he's not a pet exactly, but he hangs around and gets food. He comes down from upstairs, and whoever's sitting at the bottom of the stairs, he'll want their food. And on the bottom right there, it's kind of a scary picture. But he did scratch my arm bad enough that the nurses had to clean it out just so I wouldn't get infected. It did it again. It went too. I remembered putting that slide in, and I was going to tell you that story. Slide was in there, but they're still scary. Family to church. There's not a bridge, or you're walking across a river or through a creek, and those things are in there. Not fun. Now they do have regular animals too. They've got cows and horses, and when we were there, I wished we could have stayed another day or two. They have the Rupununi, which is a river in Guyana, and so they call it a region like the Rupununi region, like the Ohio Valley, or Tennessee Valley, it's like that. So it's a big deal. It draws people from really other parts of the world. But next door in Brazil, cowboys or vaqueros are very popular. It's sort of like our Old West, and they come over and the Brazilians usually win all the trophies, it seems like, but it's a big economic thing for that. I'm sure you've seen these before, but in the savannas, they have houses like this because they don't have as many trees, or they don't have big enough trees. So they make houses out of mud bricks or maybe concrete blocks. And then if you're really rich, you can put, what is that? Not plaster, but when you coat the outside of blocks. Well, no, I'm sorry, I said the plaster is the right word. I usually say stucco, which maybe is the same thing, but stucco usually isn't flat. Plaster, if you're rich, you can put plaster on there. If you live in an area that's forested, then the houses are usually made out of wood. And if it's an area that's going to flood, then they put them up on stilts. Does it rain? Oh, yeah. They have a rainy season. They kind of have two, but one is like 2.5 months. And it rains. And in the last few years, like say 5 years, it's gotten worse. More rain and for a longer period of time. And that affects their gardens and things like that. They make beautiful crafts. Of course, I lived in Berea, Kentucky most of my life, which is the folk arts and crafts capital of Kentucky. So I'm not as impressed or whatever. It's not that I'm not impressed. I'm just used to seeing crafts a lot more. And then other people that come with us like, oh, that's so neat. I'm like, man, I just come to Berea. They do it all the time. But they do it there. There are a few, tourists, but not many at all. They actually use these. It's not just a tourist thing. I don't know what. I feel like I'm in one of those bathrooms, where you put your hand in front of it and the water comes out, and I'm invisible somehow. It won't see me, and I think it's something like that. Sugarcane is one of their main crops down there, and some people grow it as well and will get the sugar out of it. But the government, like in Venezuela, they have oil, but they nationalized the oil business and just ran it into the ground. And Venezuela is just having so much trouble right now. And people are fleeing the country, and a lot of refugees are coming into Guyana, and Guyana doesn't have the infrastructure for that. But anyway, Guyana did the same thing with the sugar and rice industry. They nationalized it and ran them both into the ground. And so it's kind of coming back. They're trying to modernize the equipment and trying to compete on the global market with other places that produce it. But right there, we just cut a little bit of it, and you just suck the sugar out of it. It's just sort of a treat on a hot day. Silk cotton tree, you can see that inset picture there is why it's called that. It has these cotton ball looking things that come on it a couple of times a year. And they don't really use it for clothes. It doesn't spin well, but they use it to put in things like sleeping bags, life preservers, and mattresses and pillows. But I looked at those roots and I thought, wow, that tree is well rooted. And we need to be that way in the gospel. We don't need to be, some little tree like, I don't know, pine trees seem to go falling over in the wind. We need to be rooted. Oh, that tree that I just showed you, because it's so big, and a lot of them are quite tall too, and there's big sections. They'll be like 8 feet around. You can make dugout canoes with those. That type of wood isn't good for construction, but it's a light wood, and so it's very good for making dugout canoes. So you'll see those down there. I just got to be patient, I guess. It'll go. Okay, I probably showed this before too, but the fellow's name is Nicodemus Joseph. Unfortunately, he's not a member of the church, but he's one of the best people in making these crafts. And you see in the upper left, there's a tree. They get the sap out of it, sort of like you would a maple tree, and it's a natural. And then he can fashion it into these different things. It looks like it's manufactured, like some kind of a thing that stamps them out and all the same. Everyone is totally unique, and he is a master craftsman at that. And at the bottom it says, we're the clay, God is the potter. We need to be molded in his image. If you need something done here, you use a tractor or whatever. Over there, it's just manual labor. And I think I've told you all this before, but they don't sweat. I don't know how it is. God made them. They don't go gray, the Amerindians in the interior, and they don't sweat, and they have beautiful teeth. They don't lose their teeth, and of course they don't eat stuff like I do, obviously. One of the missionaries at the retreat was saying he used an example of a caterpillar turning into a butterfly, and where they were going, they had to have an interpreter. And so he said, do you know what I'm talking about, what a caterpillar is? And he goes, yes, a bulldozer. because of the brand Caterpillar, he was familiar with that, but he didn't know, he didn't know that it was talking about a caterpillar like that. And so sometimes there's difficulties in language. This is Shia Rock. If you've ever been to, outside Atlanta, uh, yeah, Stone Mountain, it's similar to that, except there's nothing carved on the side of it, but it's just a rock sticking out of the middle of nowhere there, and that's interesting. Transportation is usually walking, maybe a bicycle. There is a dugout canoe there that you can see, but it's got an outboard motor on it. On the lower right, that's Supinam Creek Church of Christ, and they live on a creek, and that's their road. There's no way to get to it except that way. So that's about half of their crowd they picked up in a boat on the way to church services. As I said, rivers are used as roads. That's how you get things to market. That's how the kids get to school. It's just the way they are. And you go by in a boat, and people are very often in the river. Of course, they could be washing or swimming or whatever. Well, honestly, I forgot what slides I had because I was trying to throw them together because I made a presentation at the mission retreat, which was completely different because I was talking to people that do mission work, and I wanted to have a different emphasis. But they don't have washing machines, so what do? If you live a mile or two from the creek, you just go that far and you carry your dishes and your clothes. And they take very good care of their clothes. It's amazing. Anything that they have, they take very good care of it. Sorry. But what they do, you see that paddle on the upper right, they just whack the fire out of the clothes. They put some little soap on it and just bam, bam, bam. I don't see how the clothes hold up as rough as they treat them. But you'll often see mostly women, but sometimes a family, like on the lower left, they just take their laundry to the river and, do that week's laundry, I guess. And when we go, I'll usually wash mine in the shower, if we have a shower, or I'll pay one of the local ladies to do the laundry. They don't have a lot of bridges and things like that, so you have to cross, maybe on a log, maybe there is a little bridge, maybe there's not. And it's something that we just don't really have to worry about to get from one place to the other. Never complain about the road conditions ever again in the United States compared to what you see there. During the rainy season, as you asked about, it's really awful. And then they will come through eventually and scrape it, like we had our driveway done a couple of weeks ago. And it makes it a lot better, but it's pretty awful. Yeah. No, I don't know why, but they don't really have gravel. I don't know if they don't have gravel or no way of hauling it or what. I mean, they do have some of those kind of vehicles, but the further you get from the capital, like where they're at there, I'm guessing it's like 8 or 10 hours away from the capital. And so you don't have the same equipment. And sometimes you have road conditions like that. I hit the button, but it didn't move. So I'm afraid if I hit it again, it'll go twice. There we go. Go ahead, keep talking. So sometimes the road hazard. Okay. Yeah, I was on that one. Right here. Yeah. So sometimes the road hazard or the speed bump is alive. And so, it's an anaconda. And they told me they're not poisonous. Y'all may have known that, but they don't really bite you. And I thought, well, that's great. I feel pretty safe. Maybe I don't know if I could outrun it or not. But what they do is wrap around you and squeeze you to death, or whatever their prey is. I don't even know what the next slide was. Thanks. So transportation for you need to get to wherever you're going, and it can be anything. Sometimes you'll have to take 2 or 3 types of transportation to get to an interior village. I drove, thank you, all the way to, thanks, the kind of upper western part of Alabama Tuesday, and then I came back last night. Great roads, wonderful, fantastic. They don't have as many hills down there, so the roads are straighter, in Alabama. And, you can kind of figure you're going to go 60 miles an hour, and you kind of guess when you'll get there. And there's places to stop, for the bathroom or get something to eat. Not when we go down there. You just don't have that sort of thing. But I love it. It's an adventure for me. Bible studies. Here, we usually invite somebody, to Bible study. Come Sunday morning, come Wednesday night. So Bible kind of happens in the church building. There, it can be anywhere, as it should be here too. But here, if you walk up to somebody's house and they're in there, you can see them and you can hear them, and you knock on the door, they're not going to come probably if they don't know you. Down there, they may not even have a door as such, but you go up to somebody you've never seen them before in your life, and you can have a 2, 3, 4 hour Bible study. They make time, they're pleasant, and it's just a whole different situation. It's wonderful there compared to here. I'm sure I've showed this slide before. Each school has their own school uniform, different school colors, and they start every day with prayer. I don't think, unless it's a Christian school here, I don't think anybody does that anymore, especially in public schools. My wife and daughter-in-law are all school teachers. They will invite you. You go to a village, and they'll say, please come talk to the kids about God. That never happens over here. And I do little self-working magic tricks. I'm not good at it, but it's things they never see. And so you make a Bible application with it too, and it really makes an impact on them. Because if maybe we're there for a week and I do that on a Tuesday, the rest of the week, there's the magic man. Here, come to my house and show my parents. And so it opens doors to be able to talk about God, because they're interested in that. Things grow very well there, but in this particular area, they're along the coast, and there's a lot of poverty. And so they have the Cumberland Church. It sounds like it's around here, Cumberland, but they have an after-school feeding program. And so you've got these kids, you're feeding them and showing them love, and they're a captive audience, and so you teach them the Bible. And that's wonderful. And they just make a big vat of rice and chicken or whatever, and everybody eats the same thing. And nobody complains. They don't say, I want something else. And so that's a wonderful work that Brother Tony does there. Much like probably all of us when we were kids, we didn't have, battery-powered toys that much and so on. And so this is just a big leaf, and they're not on a beach, just some of the country is oil of sand. And so they're just having a good time playing. They are content, the people over there. They do have gold mines, and you go over, they have the most pristine rainforests in the whole world, because a lot of other countries have been cutting down their rainforests. Unfortunately, in Guyana, there are places like this, gold mines, silver mines, and things, where it really scars the earth, and it messes up the soil, it affects the water, and things like that. And so you're flying from one place to another, and it's all green, 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 and then you see this ugly thing like this where greedy people are getting gold out of the earth. From that one point to the other is about, I guess it's, what would that be, 66 miles? And so 3 brothers, a campaign had come to their village a year earlier and had converted people, but nobody came back. And of course, they don't have communication. And so for a year, they were floundering, and they didn't really have any other guidance. Of course, they had a Bible, but they were having difficulty. And so they heard another campaign was going to be down in Mocha Mocha. And so they rode their bicycles 132 miles round trip to beg for somebody to come teach them the Bible, to teach them more. Is that going to happen in America? I don't think so. And look at the mountains that they had to ride up and down and over and through in order to get from one place to the other. They're starved for the word, and they want to hear it over there. Recently, World Evangelism, I wasn't on this trip, but they had a seminar, and those 3 men not in the yellow shirts walked up and down steeper mountains for 7 hours to get to the seminar. And you had Alan Webster, one of the best known men in the Brotherhood, and, you didn't get many people here as you'd like. I don't understand. They're a lot more hungry for it. That congregation is a brand new one, maybe 3 months old. And the preacher is up there on the right. And do you have a pointer? I don't know. Very top. Okay. Well, I'm pointing in the wrong place. Anyway, notice that he doesn't have an arm on that side. I've told you this before, probably, but when he was a teenager, he was climbing a coconut tree, like 20 feet tall. Because here you buy stuff and it's off a shelf at Save-A-Lot. There, you got to climb to go get stuff. And he fell out, and it just messed up his arm, obviously, his left arm, yeah. And here we would fix it. Maybe he'd have a scar or something. There, they just amputated it. He's a little bit younger than me, so hopefully medicine has come a little further along than that, but he didn't let that bother him. He's got one arm. He still preaches. I don't know how he gets himself dressed. He has 3 kids. I don't know how he handles them as well. But he has started another congregation, so he preaches at 2. I'm going to hit it. There. Okay, sorry. This is Wakenham Island. The Essequibo River is like the Mississippi, and at the delta, it's about 23 miles across. So if you're standing on one side, because of the curvature of the earth, you can't see the other side. It's that far across. And so there's some large islands in the middle of the river. Wakenham is one of them. By the way, the Dutch got there first about 400 years ago to Guyana, and Wakenham is a Dutch word that means an island waiting on a name. They never did really give it a name. So anyway, some words are in Dutch. That is not an Amerindian word. But they meet under a front porch, and they don't have a building yet. But they're about to outgrow it. People meet wherever they can. On the upper left, they're meeting under a work shed, and I'm working on with the local folks about getting a building built there because, well, I'll talk about that a little bit later. Well, there is that same place. And so it's about a 4-year-old congregation. There's only about 8 high schools in all of the interior of Guyana. Yeah. And so it's kind of like, again, America 100 years ago. People didn't go very far in school, especially the fellas. They drop out to go find work somewhere, gold mine or as a cowboy or whatever, because their village didn't have work. So the girls are more of the ones that are better students, but you have to earn your way into high school. You have to have the best grades. And so this congregation happens to be near one of those high schools, and so they get a lot of young people, and so it's growing rapidly, and we're working on trying to get them a building. Constructing a building is important because in their beliefs or society, if you don't have a building, then you're not permanent in our community. And so you establish yourself when you build a building down there. Some are block, some are brick, some are wood. Okay, I hit the button, but if I hit it again, it'll jump 2 probably. No? Okay. Yep, it did. Okay, so there are no baptistries in the building. I know I've showed this slide before. And so you have to go find deep enough water to do that. And for here, those are really tall cliffs on the side. I don't remember, they were about 30 or 40 feet. And so I need to ask this question of somebody. I should have asked it this weekend. So we had looked and looked for a way to get down to the river, and we thought, well, maybe we could just throw her off the cliff and baptize her that way, because she would go under, right? But she probably would. So is that a baptism? And I don't mean to be disrespectful, but back up out of the water, so we finally found a way down and got her properly baptized. And of course, the scenes are really beautiful. You can't see everything there, but they're always rural and out, out of the country. No, well, to them it's cold because they're used to, it's always about degrees. And especially if you baptize somebody at night, and it's down to like 80 degrees or 78 degrees or something, they shiver and their teeth chatter and all that. And I'm going, I'm still sweating. How can you be cold like that? When did you say I have to stop? Oh man, I don't have enough time. Okay, so got one church building built down there, and it's really nice. It actually has glass windows and things, and they're louvered to allow the air to flow. On the left, the preacher is using a chainsaw at a different building, but he saws it really, really straight, and he built their church building. There in the middle picture, there's some people standing with a bunch of lumber. It had to be cut in the rainforest, and it was, do I have it on there? I forgot. It was something like 12 or 15 miles or something, to where they had to haul it on a motorcycle, just like 3 boards at a time, up and down hills, through the trees. And it's just logistics we don't understand. And so well-meaning people will say, well, why don't you just do this? It's like, well, you don't know what it's like down there. Okay, again, I hit the button, but it didn't move. Oh, okay. Well, see, it went twice. Okay, center the same thing. Helped got 2 buildings built. Now, the one on the left, they built themselves out of homemade mud bricks. But there was still expense for the roofing and things. Most buildings don't have a classroom at all. Sometimes there's a preacher's house out back, and they'll use that as a classroom. But sending class materials is very important. That's the main thing that people are asking for right now. This was a newly established congregation at Telshida, which is a satellite village. Well, you wouldn't know where it was, but anyway, you can tell they're just meeting under a banob there. This is where we were the first part of our medical mission trip at Quatamong, and it also is near one of the other high schools down there. And so they are just packed. You can't see it, but there's people standing outside the doors and the windows, listening in. Isn't that wonderful? Maybe if you grew up in Eastern Kentucky, that may remind you of, how it used to be. But they're wanting to extend their building. It's about the size of this building, I guess, really close. But they're wanting to extend it another 20 feet out the back. There's the building. And so they're going to extend it to accommodate more people. And they have the manpower and so on that they can do that, and the know-how. On the bottom there is their banob, which is next to their building, and they're going to partition it off and make 2 classrooms out of it. So it probably won't look as pretty, but it'll be more functional for what they need. Down there, the buildings, even in the daytime, are very dark. Even with the holes through the bricks and stuff, it's very dark, and so they have difficulty reading, and so they prefer the large print Bibles. The type style is a little bit bigger than that, which is expensive, but also the larger print Bibles usually have references, and they're not the real cheap ones, but they don't have electricity, so it makes it difficult. That's me before my beard, and I've even gained weight since then, but I look like a giant compared to the guy next to me. The Amerindians are short. And look on the right there, that lady is kind of extra short, and the 2 people standing with her are a little taller than most people. But they're very, very short folks, but they have huge hearts. And, if you're a big, tall person, I guess your brain's bigger. I don't know, but you're not smarter. I know that. So you don't have more brains just because you have more size. Hope Children's Home is, they take abandoned and abused and neglected and special needs kids, and I help raise funds for that. They serve about 50 right now, but they're trying to serve more. But what I like is they teach them how to handle money. They give them a bank account, and they make crafts and things and try to sell. And I wish our kids in America knew required to have a class. I just returned from a Christian medical missions trip. I'm not a medical person, but I help facilitate so the nurses and doctors can see as many people as possible. And we just turned a church building into a clinic, a mobile clinic. On the bottom there, that's me entertaining the crowd while they're waiting. We get upset if we wait in that little doctor's room for 10 minutes. They waited for 3-4 hours to get in. And they hadn't seen a doctor for 2 years. And it was our group. I was there 2 years ago. The government's supposed to send a doctor every month, once a month, but they don't. And we give them a hygiene bag as well. If you have preaching at night, on this trip, we actually did it at night, but you take generators, and that kind of brings in the people, though. It's like, oh, what's going on over there? Because we don't have lights in our village, and so that helps. It also brings out the bugs and the bats. Then the bats eat the bugs. Mentoring missions, I'll be going with them in August. And Danny Weddle is big on preparing the next generation to be leaders. That age group is not really taken care of down there. You're either a kid or you're an adult, and they don't get to be, kind of in between because of, how much they have to work and live and survive. And so that's very helpful for that age group. Again, studies can happen anywhere. You just walk up to somebody and they'll listen. And I've talked about Amerindian missions before. Brother Jerry Davidson. Nobody was going to these remote villages until about 1999. This is woefully inadequate because I actually work with, what does it say? There's 36 more congregations than what's listed. I'm a that I help. But then they couldn't come back on a campaign for maybe 2, and so the congregations would kind of flounder and fall away, and so they started Guyana Christian University to train preachers to fill these spots as the congregations were established. That's some of the students there. They have some bunk beds and things. This is Joseph Adventura. He was in the Army. He's paralyzed in one leg, and his other knee is really bad. And this is his whopping big house, which I don't know if you can tell, but it was only the porch. And then they added on a section on the end, but it's only like 8 by 16 or something. That's his whole house. And the brethren got together and made that for him. This preacher preaches at 3 different congregations, but 2 each Sunday. But he has to borrow a motorcycle because they're like 23 miles one way and 28 miles another way. And so I'm raising funds for him to have a motorcycle. And they have smaller ones there because you don't need to go 70 miles an hour on the interstate. And so they don't cost as much over there as they would here. I will slip through these slides fast. Apologetic Express, Lambert Bookhouse. I just picked up a bunch of stuff this week from them. World Evangelism. They print so many really quality materials, and a lot of times I get them free. Benevolence. Some of the congregations over there. I've got to quit in about 2 minutes, so I pick up a lot of stuff. I travel a lot and go to different states to pick up things. Now, if it's not worth it, if it's small, I won't go. But as you can see, if you get a van load full, it's worth it because those items in those boxes are, like gold to me. You up and, these are amazing things. That's the room, one of the rooms at Maple Avenue that's full of stuff that it's a rotating stock. There's one of the other rooms that I use to separate it out. That's some of the stuff that I send, and they can't read it if they don't have glasses. And so now you can go to the $1.25 tree. They need to change their name because they upped their price, and you can get eyeglasses. Basic benevolence needs, including one that you don't think about. They don't have refrigeration. So you buy them a big bottle of Welch's grape juice, and they got 30 people that attend, and only 15 are members because the rest are kids. It takes a long time to go through a bottle. In that heat, it ferments, and they don't want to drink fermented, grape juice. And so I found there's only one source that I found for pure grape powder. Now you can get grape flavored drinks, but that's not biblical. And so it's things that you don't understand about. The kids are beautiful. I love them. I want to provide things for them. Curriculum. Some of those books are for adults. They're very thankful for the things that they get. This is one of the infrastructure things. It's a bridge. It's a floating bridge. And for an hour and a half each day, it opens up for river traffic instead of for car traffic. But they're fixing to build a new one. These 2 rivers meet. You can see one's a little different color than the other. And in life, who's going to be influenced? Are you going to influence your neighbor and your friend and your family member for good? Or are they going to influence you for bad? So which is it going to be? They have a parliament and a Supreme Court, which makes rules and passes judgment. Of course, God makes the rules. Jesus will be our judge. I love Guyana. There's lots of advantages to working there. Let me mention this one, since you're a postal guy. There was a few hundred of these stamps made temporarily until England could ship them other stamps. This is 1856. So they got a local newspaper to print some. After they were used, they got rid of all of them. There's only one left. It only weighs 0.000141 ounce. And it is said to be the world's most expensive object by weight, is this one stamp. But what's more, I'll skip that. What's more important than some expensive thing that you buy at an auction house? It's God's word. And I'm about 3 minutes over. So thank you all very much for listening. I got hundreds of other slides and things that I could talk about, but I appreciate y'all so much. Financially, you've helped with materials, you've helped just encouragement. It is a wonderful thing. And we were talking about at the Mission Street that the big congregations with the big buildings and the vans and the parking lot and the shiny steeples and all that and the Family Life Center, gymnasium, they don't help very much. It's the smaller congregations that own their building and are mission-minded and stuff, and like you all. And I appreciate it very much, because your congregation isn't any bigger than some of theirs down there, but what you do helps your brothers and sisters in Christ have things like a Bible and Bible class material. And your old material that you've already paid for and it's not useful anymore, you don't let it gather dust. You give it to me, and I send it to places that speak English, and they use it. And those teachers are so happy to get it. I'm going to quit crying. Thank you for listening to me today.